What's up, YouTube? Listen, on this time we are going to go straight to the Microsquirt Install ECU on my 86 On3 Turbo FOXBODY Mustang behind us. So this is going to be a good one, man. It's going to be fun. Stay tuned. Okay, listen, so it is time. After months of work, we're finally going to get to installing this little Microsquirt computer. So before I get into the details and we get started right into this, I've got a lot of updates to show you guys. I feel really bad. Listen guys, forgive me. I jumped the gun. I decided to put the camera down and get some work done. I've had some problems with cameras. I've got a new one coming in, and basically there are times you just gotta put it down and get to work. So I didn't do too much. I can't show you. It's not hard stuff. I'll go over everything I did, so keep you up to date. But it's not going to be a how-to until we get to the Microsquirt install. But before we get to that, let me show you what we've done. Okay, the last time you guys saw this car, we built the throttle bracket. So, as you know, we had issues with the throttle bracket. That's been resolved. We've gotten the PCB system installed on it. But as you can see now, it looks a lot more complete. So, I mean, really, let's start from the top down. We've got the spacer installed, so that's moved everything back in. So this is the EGR delete plate. I finally found the correct hose and coupler. Now, if you saw this last video, I crammed on the stock one. I didn't like the fact that it was crammed on because it was impossible to get off. So I found the right part number, and I'll share this with you guys. This was actually really long. The leg length is super long, but I'm running a 75mm throttle body, which means the opening here is 2.25 inches. I'm sorry, 3.25 inches. So I needed a 3.25 inch on the throttle body and a 3-inch on this side. Now that this is in place, and because of the length of this, I was able to cut it to length and get this to the exact angle I need. So it's actually perfect. It's not binding in the hole here, and it's all tied up and good and done. If you see, the bumper is on. It's not completely on. I've got this side to complete. That side's on. I'm working my way this way, but I've most importantly finished the lower intercooler mount. Let me show you guys what I did there. Okay, so what I've got here, and you can kind of see it right there. This is a plate that I've made on my bench using a homemade brake and some muscle, and painted it with an undercoat black to not get all scuffed up. But basically it's serving two purposes. It's holding the lower intercooler in towards the body so it's nice and solid. And it's also covering this gap here, so we don't want a whole lot of airflow to be, sucked out of the radiator. We want the air to go through the front of the intercooler, so it's actually working as an air dam, keeping this air, or a diffuser, I guess, keeping the air up. So this is on. I just put the bumper on, so I'm gonna have a chance to basically screw this down into that plate as well. That'll hold the bumper up. But this plate was done out of about, I guess, 16 gauge-ish steel, and I've just bent it to shape. So that's cool. Alright, so let's talk vacuum lines. All the vacuum lines are ran. Let me show you how I ran them. Okay guys, I'm going to talk real quick about the vacuum system I've ran in my car. So I've kind of put in here on the diagram everything that's important that comes with your turbo kit. Now, whenever you do put a turbo on a stock Mustang, in this case, you've got some additional components you need to run vacuum lines to. Mainly being your blow-off valve, your wastegates, the map sensor, and typically you're going to run a boost gauge, which I'm running inside the cab right now. In addition to that, you also have your fuel pressure regulator, and you got your stock vacuum tree that feeds the rest of the system. So I'm just going to kind of show you how I ended up running it. So basically, I decided to run off 3 sources directly from the back of the intake. We got a larger line here, and we have a smaller one there, and a smaller one here. So I've got 3 lines coming off the back of the intake. So the thick line, the bigger line, is going straight to the vacuum tree that feeds your brake booster, your HVAC controls. It feeds the canisters. Basically everything stock Mustang is teed off of this tree and is sourced by the big vacuum line here. So that leaves me with 2. Well, because I'm no longer feeding the fuel pressure regulator from this big one, I decided to run a dedicated line straight to the fuel pressure regulator to this port here. So that takes care of our fuel pressure regulator now getting vacuum and boost source. So you can see it leaves quite a bit of components. So what I ended up doing was taking this guy here, running it straight to the map sensor, and then I teed off of it, okay? to a line that comes over and tees again to the boost gauge, and then this line goes straight to the top port on my blow-off valve. Now I know what you're thinking, okay, well, what about your wastegate? Well guys, the wastegate, as you know, is essential to controlling boost on your now boosted Mustang or boosted vehicle here, guys. So this is single-handedly controlling how much boost you get. So you have to control the wastegate. You can leave the wastegate alone and control it with just the internal spring inside, or you can get a boost controller. Now On3 does sell a boost controller, and in fact their instructions tell you to go ahead and just tee it off the vacuum lines anywhere off the intake or into an existing. However, I've talked to a lot of guys who are running turbo cars, and what they're doing is saying to get the best boost source to your wastegate is to get it directly off the turbo itself. So the shortest run possible and to the closest boost source is going to be the best route, or the fastest way that your boost controller can react to your wastegate, and your wastegate can react properly to your system. That being said, the way I'm running the vacuum lines to my wastegate is simply from a port I drilled right here in the side of the turbo's housing, directly off the turbo outlet. That means I can run a very short line to my boost controller here, and then the boost controllers go straight out into the side port on my wastegate. Okay, that gives me a very short line and allows me to control the boost with the TurboSmart boost controller here. So that leaves an additional port here on top of your wastegate. If you notice, your wastegate has two ports. On3 uses both of them. They use a different type of valving system. In this case, we're using a simple bleed off valve, which is the TurboSmart valve. And because I'm running the TurboSmart boost controller, the directions for TurboSmart says to run it directly to the side of the wastegate, and it's telling you to basically vent this guy straight off to atmosphere. This is how I ran it, because this is how TurboSmart tells me to run it. This is how everyone else I've talked to has told me to run the turbo. So I went ahead and tapped the side of the turbo with a 1/8 NPT pipe fitting and fed it directly to the TurboSmart controller. So let me show you here in the car. Okay, so my vacuum lines, I decided to go ahead and go to Summit Racing and buy about 10 foot of this stuff. It is not a rubber-based line, it is a silicone-based vacuum hose, and this is really good because it's heat resistant. It deters collapsing under vacuum, and it also handles lots of pressure. So I got about 10 foot of this, and this is really good stuff. I highly recommend it, especially when vacuum and boost source referencing is really important to all the components in your system. So make sure you pick up some decent quality silicone-based vacuum lines and not the store brand, just basic rubber stuff. Okay, so again on the Mustang, we got the blow-off valve on the cold side. Over here, we have the wastegate over here, along with the boost controller that's right next to it. I'll show you in a second. We'll have the map sensor that goes in the back firewall. That took place of the barometric pressure sensor that is in your stock Mustang. Or the map sensor that's actually on the pre-mass airflow Mustangs. This was converted to mass air. Now we're going back to map sensor. So it'll go there. And let me show you how I've run this. So basically I've got that T on the back of the manifold. I've got 3 of them, just like I said a second ago. And off the main one here, you can see the copper line. That is just going straight to your stock tree here. The line that is right next to it, right here, this guy, straight above it, is a dedicated line to my fuel pressure regulator. So it is going straight to it there. And then on the back side of it, I'm running straight up to this guy. So this is teed off. This line is going to go into the map sensor. When it goes on the firewall here, the line comes out this way. I've run it to a T that is now feeding the boost gauge. Okay, inside the car. And then it keeps going underneath the fender well above here, and it goes over to your blow-off valve line, which is right here. I'm sorry it's dark, but there it is. Okay, the top of the blow-off valve. So let's look at the turbo. Here we go. Yes, I drilled and tapped it. There it is. Again, this is what I understand the absolute best spot. The TurboSmart controller is right there, so it's a very short line directly off the turbo. This was simply removed and drilled and tapped with a 1/8 inch NPT pipe fitting, and that has got a barb fitting on it that's been screwed in, and now is going to the Turbo Smart, and then you can see the arrow out right here. It says to wastegate, and it goes through the hole in the firewall, and it's going to the wastegate. Now the top line, or the one right here, is actually just a vent. So if you guys watch Eric the Car Guy, this is his idea, just to tuck it up in there, keep water and moisture out of it. I got that from him. Thank you, Eric. And this thing right here is what's coming out of your boost controller, going to the side of your wastegate. So that is how I'm running it. So you can see the Turbo Smart boost controller does mount just like this. Nice spot. Use a factory hole there in the firewall. Goes straight to the wastegate. It is a super short run to the turbo. So that's the vacuum lines, man. Vacuum lines have been ran. Again, sorry for not making an install video and all that. Like I said, I was able to knock a lot of this stuff out by just putting the camera down for a second. It's not that technical. It's just figuring out where you want to run your vacuum lines, how you want to route it, how you want to tuck it. The way I did it, you can't really see any of the turbo lines anywhere. They're not visible. They're really tucked and hidden. They're really tucked, hidden, and out of the way. And when you're changing this kind of components into your stock Mustang, it's pretty essential that you have to tune it. In fact, there's no getting away around it. You have to control all this extra boost and fuel safely, and the only way to do that is with a tune and with retuning your computer, either retuning the stock one or adding an aftermarket ECU like I've done with the Microsquirt. So guys, there's a ton of options out there. I'm not going to get too deep into it. You just do your research, start looking around. There's a lot of companies, anywhere from $2,000 all the way down to much cheaper. You could put a SCT chip in it and take it to a dyno and have someone fully tune it for you. You probably have the trailer because it's not going to run when you get it there, but you could do that. That's okay. They could put that chip on top of your stock ECU and tune it. You can run a mass air and you can run that way, or you can do what I've done and gone with a map sensor and gone back to like a speed density type setup. Now I went with a Microsquirt simply because it puts the power in your hands. It's not the only one. There are other good quality ECUs out there. Pro M, I believe, makes a really nice one, but Microsquirt was budget friendly, guys. You can't beat it for $450, and with the software, it gives you 100% full capability of tuning the stuff yourself. You can get it started and running and really get it tuned really good. And then after the fact, if you want a professional to really take the reins, you can take it to a dyno and have it tuned there. But the cool thing about it is that if I modify, if I add, if I up boost, if I do this and this and this and this, I can get the software, I can open it up, I can look at it, I can data log it, and it's really all in my hands. And I wanted 100% complete control of my car, nobody else. I don't want to pace a dyno time every single time I make a component change, like an exhaust manifold or something, you know, different intake, whatever the case may be. So that's why I went Microsquirt. But do know that you cannot just put this on your car on a stock Mustang ECU and go boosting around town having fun burning tires. It's not going to happen, guys. You've got to control this stuff somehow. And quite frankly, the stock ECUs are just very limited, so it makes nothing but sense to upgrade to something, because technology has changed a hell of a lot in the last 30 years. Okay, let's get straight to why you're here. This is the Microsquirt plug-in unit for an 86 and up FOXBODY Mustang. This is what you get from EFIsource.com. This is $475, which is on the really the cheapest end of engine management systems, complete engine management system. And this makes it dead easy because it uses your stock plug where your ECU goes, and it just simply plugs into the unit. And along with the addition of your new GM map sensor, you're pretty much ready to go. So we're not going to be tuning today, but we are going to be installing it and getting kind of everything ready to go to start our tuning process. It comes with some instructions, and this is it. So you've got your cable. This plugs into the harness here, and this allows the DB9 serial cable. So I've got an adapter coming from my laptop. We'll be able to put the software on, and that's how you tune it and burn to it, and how you see so much live data. So this thing is basically unlimited in what we can do with it. I'm really excited to get it in the car, man. Of course, it comes with your sensor here. This is going to go in place and wire directly into where your map sensor or barometric pressure sensor on your stock Mustang goes. So once this is in place, the ECU will read it from the pinouts on this guy and make corrections. This is a 3-bar map sensor. So this is perfect for boost, and that's why I chose this thing, and why this kit is going to be so optimal is because the vacuum source goes into here, and this is what reads boost pressure and vacuum pressure from the engine. This is how it helps meter the incoming air and fuel, or fuel going into the engine. And of course you've got your Microsquirt controller itself. It's super small, it's lightweight, it's got a really nice pinout on the back. It shows you everything, what every pin does and what it's controlling, and that's it. There's nothing to it. This will completely take place of the stock Mustang in the stock ECU in the passenger kick panel. So EFI source here comes with a really simple diagram on how to install it, and basically all there is to it is this. It even tells you what colors are which and what year and how you plug it into. So it is dumb easy. You've got a ground, a sensor input, and a voltage. So we'll just simply tap these into the stock harness and plug that guy in. Now I am also going to be tying in my wideband as well to help meter and help monitor the air fuel. So let me show you what we've got going on for the wideband. So on the downpipe coming straight out of the back of the turbo, I've got a wideband sensor here. This is an AEM wideband. So this guy basically was plugged in to my pod that I used before I went turbo to monitor air fuel ratio going through the motor and help me tune it. So this guy's already in place. The cool thing about this is it's got two plugs on it. One is basically an input, and one plug on it is a set of outputs. The set of outputs has a nice 0 to 5 volt output wire that will go straight into the harness on our Microsquirt. Now this harness is so well made, I can't praise it enough, because the wires are labeled. You can see this is labeled fan. So yes, you don't need a thermometer stuck in your radiator grill. We can control the fan when it turns on and off just by this wire here going to our relay. This guy right here is for a tachometer output. If you want to run a tach, you can. You can also do other things with this, like a shift light, which is what I plan on doing with it. And you got a wire here, which is simply for your O2 sensor. So this pink wire will go to that one wire I was telling you about that goes out of my gauge. And just by plugging this in, now we've got wideband capabilities on our Microsquirt. And just like that, we'll be able to read a really accurate air fuel ratio and compensate for, or even if we wanted to, auto tune with the software. Alright, so just like that, the map sensor has been installed. Really easy. So it's ready to go. It is now sending a signal to the factory harness, which will plug into our main harness for the ECU now. So what we're going to do now is just get ready to go ahead and install the wideband. So the wideband itself has an output, which I've got already dangling down here. So we got these wires here that are coming straight from the gauge, which is connected to the wideband sensor over there on the downpipe. And we identify what color wire needs to run from that, and then just get it kind of ready over to the kick panel to where the ECU is. Alright man, so just looking at the pin out here, this shows you all the wires. What we need is a 0 to 5 volt analog output, which is right here. It says white analog plus 0 to 5 volts. So that is the white wire. We need to identify the white wire, and that will run a wire to the pink one here. Okay, so I got this wire here that is running all the way to the white wire coming out of my AEM wideband gauge, and that guy is going to be for the O2 sensor, the wideband O2. So the white output is going to this red cable. Unfortunately, that's the only color I've got, and it's the correct gauge that matches what's coming out of the gauge itself, no pun. So now we get to install the ECU itself. So really, I'm just going to remove this one kick panel screw. And I've already popped the clip off of our panel here. Alright. out as well. So that is why I didn't have the bracket on. So this cable will go with it. But guys, this is the easiest part ever. We're going to go ahead and get, and I believe it's a 10 mil, and unscrew the retaining nut that holds on your factory harness to the ECU. Okay. Alright, out goes the old ECU. Okay, and it clicked in place, and that's it, man. So it is actually that easy. We'll go ahead and plug this little tiny wire here into our pink wire, this guy here, and we'll find a spot to mount this and get it kind of out of the way and tucked up. I don't know how I'm going to do that yet, and I don't want to yet because I need to access these wires, and we need to access the wire here for the tuning cable. We'll run the tuning cable up in the glove box as well. Okay guys, next day the ECU, the Microsquirt ECU has been installed. It's over there in the corner. I know there's nothing much to it, but there it is. It's not put up yet because I want to make sure everything works. I want to make sure it communicates. So I've gotten the X series wideband here. This is an AM X series wideband. It has an output on it. I've got the 0 to 5 volt output wire ran and plugged into the pink wire on the Microsquirt. Other than that, you know, of course we've got the map sensor installed, but that's really it. I double checked and made sure all my sensors on my engine are plugged in. We're not going to get too crazy here. All I'm going to do is just hook up my laptop, make sure we have serial communication, make sure it fires up, make sure we can see all the sensors, and maybe even do some calibration, but I'm not going to get into that in this video. Next video is going to be about tuning. We're going to start it, we're going to start the engine probably, and just make sure that the necessary components are working before I get a little bit of help when it actually comes to tuning the car. And we'll get somebody over here, hopefully to give me a hand. I've been talking to a lot of guys, so we need help with that. But man, right now I've got my laptop here. This is a work laptop. It is just a little Dell, and what I've done is I've ordered a, you can see it right there. Let's go on this side. So all this is basically just like a phone jack, and it's plugged in right here. That converts that cable into your serial cable. That now it goes into my USB adapter. So this will plug into the USB port on my laptop. Okay, so just get your laptop ready. I'm going to go ahead and have it plugged in, have it charged. And basically all you do to get this thing ready is go to tunerstudio.com or just Google Tunerstudio MS. And what I've done here, and I'll show you. Okay, so basically go to tunerstudio.com and you can see their features here. So they got different versions. And if you get the free download, you get the light version, it gives you just basic tuning capabilities. I went ahead and paid for the MS version, which is gives you more than enough. They have a bundle package. If you pay for the MS version, that's like the Pro version, it also comes with like advanced logging analyzer, so you can do some really good logging. Everyone I've talked to said it's totally worth it. So, but you can kind of check it through here. It's really easy. You can just go to products, click on Tunerstudio, download to get started. Basically, once you pay for the registered version on the website here, they will send you a link, or they'll send you a code. You put that code in, and now you're registered. So once it's installed, you've got it here, right here on your desktop, Tunerstudio MS. We'll double click on this to open it up. And that is really it. I want to go ahead and show you once it's, here we go. Once you start the application, this is what you get, and you'll notice that now we're kind of to the point where we need to plug in the serial cable. So the serial cable will plug in, that'll give us communication to this software and allow us to see everything and tune it, which is really cool. So let's go ahead and get started with that before we go any further. Before we do this, it's important to make sure that our battery's fully charged. Last night I had it on the charger and it's been charging, and now it is fully charged. I want to make sure while we have the key on and we're running the battery that we've got plenty of charge. So now I'm going to go ahead and plug the battery back in here. Alright, it gives the vehicle power. Get ready to turn everything on. We're going to bring the laptop in the car. Now listen guys, with just some trial and error on my own part, I have learned that this did not work, and I actually spent some time last night making sure that this can connect to the vehicle, and what I found out was I could not get communication from the software to this USB to serial dongle adapter, and it's because I had it in my laptop, which has an SS port. An SS port on USB means that it's 3.0. You got different versions with different speeds. I plugged it into a non-SS port, which is a 2.0. This is a 2.0 adapter. Even though it showed up, it wouldn't communicate. So once this is plugged into the 2.0 adapter, then we should be kind of ready to go here. So with the battery in the vehicle plugged in, with my serial cable now plugged into the correct port, what we can simply do is go ahead and launch the software. Now, basically, you'll see here you can create a new project. Basically, if you haven't connected before, once you click on create a new project, what you're going to go through is the firmware detection. So what you want to do is go ahead and turn the key on. Now, if everything's working properly, you'll definitely hear the fuel pump prime, and that's a good sign. That means the ECU is talking to the fuel pump relay. So we've got fuel pressure. We'll go ahead and hit detect here. And this takes a second, but what this is doing is it's reaching out to your serial connections and all your different types of connections until it finds the correct port. And there it goes. So anyways, when it finds it, you'll see it pop up here. You'll see here that it's found the Microsquirt 2 Extra 3.4.1 release. We know that's the correct one, so I'm going to go ahead and hit accept. At this point, we can call the project whatever we want to call it. In this case, I'm just going to call it Test Mustang Base. Okay. You can put a description in or whatnot, but go ahead and click on next. You're going to have some default sensors here. Oxygen sensor is wideband for me, so click on next, next, and success. Alright, so this is a basic gauge. So the first thing it's going to ask you is what gauge you want to use. We're going to use the default Tunerstudio gauge set. Hit finish. Alright, so guys, we are connected. What you can see here is now we've got a fuel load, which I'm not sure if we should have. We have air-fuel ratio. Basically, we've got the coolant temperature, and this tells me that we are talking to the ECU. I've got connectivity right now, so that is pretty awesome. We're not going to get to firing up the car. What I'm going to show you is the basic stuff you need before you fire up your car real quick. The first thing we want to do is calibrate all my sensors. So, guys, I'm learning this, and please, I'm not a professional at this, man. I'm learning this. You're just learning with me. Don't watch these videos thinking I'm a Microsquirt tuner or Microsquirt tuner. I'm not, okay? I've just done my homework and I've done a little bit of reading on it. So, basically, I know the software is hard to read, but basically, I mean, you'll work the software from left to right, kind of top to bottom here. And your main settings for your tunes are going to be up here in these buttons. And then everything else that's kind of outside tuning, as far as saving your projects, which is going to be under File, different looks and feels, languages. You can change the look of this. You can log here. You can start your data logging. Communication. This is all communication to your Microsquirt, your serial settings, GPS. And then underneath tools, you've got some different things like, I don't know, plugins and places where you can update the firmware. I did go ahead and do this, by the way. I did an update firmware on mine to make sure that my Microsquirt was up to date. So we've done that. What we are going to go ahead and do is calibrate my sensors. I want to make sure that these are calibrated to all the engine sensors before we can attempt to start up. And I'm just going to start down the list here. So we're going to calibrate TPS. Alright, closed current throttle. So I'm going to go ahead and get current. Current is 194. This is reading the voltage off your throttle position sensor. What we want to do is make sure that it gets right now in a closed position. It's currently closed. What I'm going to do now is floor it. Okay, you can see the throttle just went up to 100, and we'll say get current. 925, let off, accept. Alright, so now we have a throttle position sensor that is accurate. Now for this to be, I guess, burned in or to save, you do have to power cycle it. So what we're going to do is go ahead and finish up the calibration, all of them. You don't have to mess with the map and barometric pressure. The Microsquirt for the 95, or excuse me, for the 86 to I guess 86, 94, 95, 5.0 FOXBODYs, or the SN95s, you can run this on as well, I believe. Comes pre-calibrated with a really basic tune, so if you have a stock Mustang, you can just plug this in, and most of your settings are going to get you at least started, which is awesome because it takes a lot of guesswork out. But the map sensor, I'll go ahead and open it to show you here. This is already set to the GM3 bar, is what comes with the kit, and is what we installed on the firewall. Alright, so let's go ahead and calibrate battery voltage. Don't even do this unless the battery voltage is off. So we'll look at that later. Not too worried about it. Right now my battery is fully charged. Alright, the only other thing we have to really worry about calibrating here is, that's great, my battery's going to die here, is my air-fuel ratio table. Okay, so here I've already selected. Now this, if you don't select this, it comes with just your a basic setting. Now I am actually running an AEM X series, and you'll see that's part of the list here. So I'm going to go ahead AEM X series, write to controller, write complete, close. Let's go ahead and turn off the ignition. This is going to disconnect the ECU and offline the software, and then we'll turn it back on. Fuel pump primes. We're already reconnected. Notice that now my throttle position is perfectly 0 to 100. Okay, so we have calibrated the throttle, and now we have our basic settings and we have our basic things calibrated as far as it goes for our sensors. That is it for this video. I've shown you guys all the updates on the car. I've shown you guys the vacuum routing, and I've installed the Microsquirt for you guys. We've connected the laptop, we've got connectivity to the ECU, and I've done some very basic calibration settings, and I've shown you guys the software. So that means next video we're going to be firing the car up. So man, we are firing it up. So please stay tuned and follow me on Instagram. Make sure to subscribe, and we'll see you guys next time. Take care.